Something I've noticed in my clinical work and in my own life is that the signs of mental abuse rarely affect people the way you expect them to. The person who has been through mental abuse doesn't look like someone who is visibly broken. They often look like someone who is overtly capable, responsible, someone who apologizes constantly, second guesses everything, and has somehow convinced themselves that the problem in every room is them. I know that woman, and I was that woman in some ways before. One of the signs I had to work through myself, and one I'll talk about today, is the inability to see yourself accurately. And it holds true for me. Everyone outside of my marriage saw me in one way, and I couldn't understand why the person I was married to seemed to see someone completely different. For a long time, I believed his version. That's what mental abuse does. It doesn't just hurt you, it rewrites the story you tell about yourself. I'm Cassandra Mullick, therapist, coach, and certified narcissistic abuse treatment clinician. Today, I want to walk you through 8 signs that someone has been mentally abused, because naming these patterns is the first step to separating them from who you actually are. The first sign is constantly apologizing. Not in situations where an apology makes sense, but for speaking, for asking questions, for having needs, sometimes even just for existing. Most people doing this don't even realize it. It becomes automatic. Here's what's actually happening. The person was conditioned to associate their presence with problems. They were blamed unfairly, criticized excessively, and punished in ways that didn't match the situation. And then the brain adapted. It started assuming responsibility for everything as a way to stay safe. Because if everything is your fault, maybe you can prevent the next outburst. Maybe you can avoid the next rejection. The result is someone carrying emotional responsibility that was never theirs to begin with. Constantly self-monitoring and constantly self-anticipating something going wrong. Sign number 2, difficulty seeing themselves accurately. This is the one I want to spend a moment on because it's the one that I lived. Everyone outside of my marriage saw me in one way: capable, warm, competent, and I really couldn't understand why my husband seemed to see someone completely different. Someone difficult, too sensitive, and never quite enough. For a long time, longer than I want to admit, I believed his version. This is what repeated criticism does. It doesn't just hurt in the moment, it becomes internalized. The external voice stops and the internal one continues. And it can be relentless. This person will dismiss compliments immediately, counter anything positive with something negative about themselves. They developed a deep, distorted view of who they are, not because that view is accurate, but because they were conditioned into it. This distortion reflects conditioning, not reality. And rebuilding the story that you tell about yourself is real work. It doesn't just happen because the relationship ends. It requires intentional effort to separate your true identity from the one that was imposed on you. Sign number 3, a need for constant reassurance. This person frequently asks, "Are you sure that's okay? Are you upset with me? Do you think I did a good job?" This isn't insecurity in the way people often assume. It comes from having their reality questioned and distorted so many times that they have lost trust in their own perception. When you've been gaslit consistently, you stop feeling confident in what you see, what you feel, and what you believe. When your internal compass is disrupted, you start looking outside of yourself for confirmation. The deeper issue is that the internal trust was broken. Rebuilding it means learning to listen to yourself again, not just receiving reassurance from the outside. If you're recognizing yourself in any of the signs that we have talked about so far, I have made a free guide specifically on rebuilding self-concept after this kind of relationship. You can check out the link in the description below. Sign number 4, exaggerated startle response. This person jumps easily, feels startled by small, unexpected movements, experiences a sudden surge of anxiety when something catches them off guard. This is a nervous system that has been trained to stay in survival mode. When someone lives in an environment of emotional unpredictability, tension, sudden outbursts, criticism that comes without warning, the body adapts by staying on high alert, constantly scanning, constantly anticipating what's to come next. And when you live like that long enough, your body forgets to relax. It forgets what safety feels like. So even when the threat is gone, the response remains. This is physiology. It's what happens when a nervous system has been overworked for so long. Sign number 5, intense reactions to conflict. Even minor conflict can feel overwhelming for this person. Something small can send them into a level of distress that seems disproportionate to what just happened. This traces back to experiences where conflict wasn't safe, where disagreements led to punishment, rejection, or emotional harm. So conflict stopped feeling uncomfortable and started feeling threatening. Their reaction is not about the present moment. It's about what their nervous system was trained to expect based on what happened before. Until those experiences are processed, those reactions feel automatic. The nervous system can learn that not all conflict leads to harm, but that learning takes time and a real experience of safety, not just the understanding of it. Sign number 6, making difficult decisions. Simple decisions feel overwhelming. They hesitate, overthink, and second-guess themselves constantly. This comes from a history where choices were criticized, mocked, or controlled. Making a decision stopped feeling neutral, and it started to feel super risky. There's a fear of getting it wrong, a fear of judgment, a fear of consequences that may not even exist anymore. This isn't about capability, it's about conditioning. They were trained to doubt themselves until the doubt became the default. Rebuilding this looks like small decisions, trusting yourself in low-stake moments, and proving to your nervous system over time that you can make choices without something going wrong. Sign number 7, becoming easily overwhelmed. This person becomes overwhelmed more quickly than seems to make sense from the outside. What looks like overreaction is usually accumulated stress that has never been fully processed. Their nervous system has been operating in a constant state of alert without adequate rest, without safety, without the opportunity to regulate. When a system has been running like that for months or years, it doesn't take much to push it into overwhelm. They're not dramatic, they're depleted. And healing involves restoring that capacity, giving the nervous system actual rest and space to reset. Sign number 8, having a persistent negative self-view. This person feels hopeless about themselves, pessimistic, like things can't really change, like they are fundamentally flawed in a way that cannot be fixed. This comes from prolonged exposure to environments where they felt powerless, controlled, or consistently invalidated. When someone spends years feeling trapped and unable to change their circumstances, it changes the way that they see themselves, the future, and what's possible. That outlook isn't a personality type, it's a reflection of what they survived. And it's not permanent, it can shift, but The shift happens through real experiences of safety and real evidence that things can be different, not just through being told to think more positively. Here's the thread that runs through every single sign on this list. Mental abuse doesn't just hurt your feelings. It rewires the way that your nervous system operates. It changes how you read situations, how you read people, and most significantly, how you read yourself. Every one of these signs made complete sense as an adaptation. Your mind and your body did exactly what it needed to do to survive an environment that wasn't safe. The apologizing, the hypervigilance, the self-doubt, those were protective responses. They served a purpose. The work isn't to be ashamed of them. It's to understand where they came from and to start building evidence, one small experience at a time, that it's safe to let them go. If you need help to rewire your nervous system, that is exactly what my community does. If you'd like to understand more about mental abuse and the tactics that abusers use, you can check out this video up here.